Garen Reroll is incredibly strong and one of the most fun comps to play right now, and in this video I'll teach you how to master this comp by going over the build, what items to make and what augments, legends, and portals to take, how to play the early, mid, and late game, and then I'll go over some in-depth positioning examples. The build is very linear as there is close to no flexibility. Our level 8 comp is always 3 Demacia and 6 Juggernauts. The reason why we want 3 Demacia is to get a Radiant item for free on Garen, and the reason why we want 6 Juggernauts is to make Garen extremely tanky. Since he is the melee carry, he will be taking a lot of splash damage, and this is reduced with Juggernaut, making him stay alive longer to deal more damage. We will be slow rolling at level 7 with this comp, and our level 7 board is these 6 units plus 1 additional champion. Which champion you pick as the last one depends on a couple of different factors that we'll get into later in this video. There are not really any other variations that work, unless we get some specific augments, and we'll get into that later as well. Garen is our main carry, so we prioritize making items for him first. He has 2 core items, and they are Rageblade and Bloodthirster. To understand why, let's take a look at Garen's spell. As we can see, the damage the spell deals scales with AD, and the duration of the spell scales with AP and attack speed. His spell also stacks Rageblade, therefore it's great as it extends the time he spends casting his spell, resulting in more damage. Bloodthirster is also core to heal up Garen. Since he is a melee carry, he'll be taking a lot of splash damage, and BT lets him heal up from that. The third item for Garen is going to be the Radiant item you get from 3 Demacia. The trait only gives Radiant items that work on the champion, so almost every single one will be a good fit for Garen. Titan's Resolve is the best one though, but at the current moment, it's still better to leave the third slot open for the free Radiant item than it is to build Titans. After you made Garen items, you want to make 6 Zeke's Heralds. This sounds absurd, but it actually works incredibly well, but we can actually do it consistently by picking TF as our legend and grabbing the Pandora's Items augment as the first one. Since Garen's spell scales with attack speed, you want to give him as much attack speed as possible at the start of the fight. You will put the Zeke's Heralds on Darius and Set, and place them on both sides of Garen. You will occasionally have more components left over after having made 2 Garen items and the Zeke's Heralds, and you will either itemize Sona or Jarvan with the rest of them. Sona gets itemized if you 3-star her, if not, you itemize Jarvan. Sona wants AP and mana items, which are Sojin, JG, Morello, Blue Buff, Archangels, Giant Slayer, Deathcap, and Guardbreaker. Jarvan wants any tank items to make him stay alive long enough to do a second cast with a spell. The best one by far is Protector's Vow, but other tank items like Sunfire Cape, Warmogs, Stoneplate, Redemption, Dragon's Claw, and Bramble Vest will do just fine as well. If you get a spatula, you want to make Juggernaut Spat. This allows us to play 6 Juggernaut, 3 Demacia at level 7. That's a great power spike, as we aren't relying on hitting Aatrox, but we can also hit a large power spike without leveling up to 8. Demacia Spat is not really worth, as we can't really play 5 Demacia without going level 9, and 5 Demacia doesn't buff Garen up either. Therefore, if you cannot build Juggernaut Spat, then try to turn the spatula into a Tactician's Crown. Since we need 6 Zeke's Heralds in this comp, we need to pick Twisted Fate as our legend. The comp is actually unplayable without it. This is because he offers Pandora's items as the first augment. This allows us to keep rerolling other components into Sword and Belt once we are done making Rageblade and BT for Garen. The best portals for this comp are anything that helps us hit Garen 3 faster, or helps us hit 6 Juggernaut 3 Demacia faster, or helps us get Garen items and Zeke's faster. Those are portals like Scuttle Puddle, Hearth Home, Placidium Library, Godwillow's Grove, Shuriman Bazaar, The Summit, and Ecliptic Vaults. Since you will always pick Pandora's items as your first augment, and you will often pick Teaming Up as your third augment, the only hard decision will be the second augment. Sometimes you will pick another third one, but in my experience, you will pick Teaming Up the majority of the time. The best second and third augments for this comp are Army Building, Bronze Ticket, Cybernetic Bulk, Cybernetic Leech, Harmacist, Juggernaut Harder Crest, Tiny Titans, Unified Resistance, Adrenaline Rush, Last Stand, Metabolic Accelerator, Petricide Shackles, Silver Ticket, Tons of Stats, You Have My Sword, You Have My Bow, March of Progress, and Infernal Contact. I mentioned a lot of augments there, and the best ones out of those are Petricide Shackles, Juggernaut Harder Crest, Adrenaline Rush, Last Stand, Unified Resistance, and Tons of Stats. If all that info was a lot to take in, then check out the cheat sheet for this comp. It's available for patrons and YouTube members. Here is the quirky cheat sheet from a previous set, so you know what to expect for the Garen Reroll cheat sheet that is available right now. The best case in the early game is to get Garen early and end up with a board like this. But hitting Garen early won't happen every time, so another board that also works is this, where we have Juggernauts and Samira as the item holder for Garen. 3 Demacia is also a solid option, where you use Kale as the item holder for Garen. We want to pre-level with this comp on stage 1-4, as we get a lot of power in the early game if we are able to hit Garen early, or hitting Darius, who's also a strong carry in the early game. And once we have found our comp, we need to make items. Since you will always be picking Pandora's items with this comp, you will make items in this order: Rageblade, then BT, then 6 Heralds. Make sure to save components that fit. For example, if you get a bow, place it on a champion so it doesn't get rerolled. Once you can build Rageblade, then start saving components for BT, and so on. From here, you can play the early game however you want in terms of streaking. And if you want to learn more about how to play the early game, then check out my guide where I go in depth on that subject. After the corrects round, you should have more direction towards a comp, and the general requirements to play Garen is to have picked Pandora's items as your augment, and you prefer to have 3 Demacia and 2 Juggernaut active on stage 3-1. This is so we can get Demacia and Juggernaut specific augments offered to us on stage 3-2. The overall goal of the mid game is to make it to stage 4-1 with being level 7 and having 50 gold or more. Therefore, if we are weaker in the mid game, it's best to wait until level 7 before we roll, as we will have better odds for Garen and the other champions we need there. But we can roll at level 6 and drop below 50 gold if it's needed to stabilize and stop the bleeding. Here we have a strong level 6 board to stabilize off of, and if you've been heavy loss streaking, it's better to roll at level 6 than to have to keep bleeding out and not having the time to hit Garen 3-star later. Once you're on stage 4-1, the goal is to have 50 gold or more while being level 7. Here we will start slow rolling by rolling down to 50 gold every single turn. Our 3-star priority is Garen, Darius, Set, then Sona. But realistically, you only really need Garen 3-star in order to win games, the rest are just bonuses. Some people will also argue that it's not even worth to go for any other 3-stars than Garen, as it costs gold that you could have spent on hitting Garen 3-star earlier. We will be slow rolling with this board at level 7, and our level 7 isn't amazing as we don't have space for that last Juggernaut to hit 6, therefore we can also remove Warwick here for another unit we hit, or ideally we get +1 Juggernaut and place the emblem on Jarvan for 6 Juggernauts. You also need to drop below 50 gold if you haven't hit Garen 2-star yet by stage 4-1, as you will just lose too much HP if you only have Garen 1-star on stage 4. You will slow roll until you get to around 30 HP, here you will need to all in for Garen 3-star. The reason for the 30 HP mark is so that we have 2 to 3 lives left, and we avoid getting knocked out if we run into one bad matchup. Once you hit Garen 3-star, level up to 8 and play 6 Juggernauts. If you get +1 Juggernaut, drop Warwick and play either a second Jarvan or Scion. Both of these units CC the enemy backline and buys time for Garen to keep stacking Rageblade. And if you make it to level 9, once again add in a second Jarvan or another Scion. General positioning with this comp looks like this. Here we always have Garen next to Darius and Set to get extra attack speed. Jarvan wants to be on the outskirts to be able to CC the enemy carries in the corners, so put him where he's currently standing or where Warwick is standing. Aatrox needs to be on the farthest outskirts to be targeted first. This allows his trade to do work, and it will allow Aatrox to respawn 1 or 2 times during the fight, which buys a ton more time for Garen. Nasus also wants to be on the other farthest outskirt. This is so that he will wrap around into the backline if the enemy team has few frontliners. Sona wants to be on the opposite side of large clumps, so that she deals as much damage as possible with her spell. Now moving on to some in-depth positioning examples. Against the first guy, the big threat is Zeri. We're also worried about Garen getting CC'd by Lissandra. Here Nasus will wrap around the front line and go to the back line. Aatrox will die relatively fast in his position. Garen is next to 2 targets, which allows him to deal more damage. Lissandra is targeting the Set, which is good as it doesn't CC our Garen. It's hard for Jarvan to CC the enemy backline, so we have him CC the front line instead, to make sure that Lissandra doesn't get a cast onto our Garen. Against the second guy, the big threat is Tristana. A lot of the same concepts apply here. Make Jarvan CC the backline, Aatrox dies first by being targeted by Tristana, Garen is not getting CC'd, and Nasus will walk down and take down the Heimerdinger and Jinx. Against the third guy, the big threat is Kai'Sa and Baron. We need to move Garen more towards the left side. This is so he doesn't get stuck on Baron right away. We need to take down as many of the other units first until we move over to the Baron. That's the key to winning this matchup. If you have Garen stuck on the Baron right away, your team just takes too much damage from all the other units, and you usually just lose out. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you want cheat sheets for any of my comp guides, they're available for you to members and patrons, and the links to join those are down in the description. And if you want to get better at TFT, join the Discord. We got over 9,000 other players there who are hungry to climb. And if you want to get coached by me, the information is over on the Discord server as well. So take care and see you in the next video.